Welcome to our Benita's Maternity Program webinar. Today we're speaking with Sister Ingrid Groenewald, who'll be chatting to us about breast changes and what to expect. Welcome, Sister Ingrid.
Thank you very much for having me today. So yes, it's a very exciting topic, all the things with boobs related and what you can expect, in pregnancy and also afterwards, what is actually happening to our boobs. So for those of you who are already pregnant or just recently had their babies, if you think back initially, that's really the first sign of pregnancy, is that your breasts become very uncomfortable. There's definitely some tenderness initially. If you sleep on your tummy, that you actually feel that it's really uncomfortable. Something's going on with your boobs. So lots of changes taking place in pregnancy. So the tenderness is something that can actually go straight through pregnancy. If we think also what actually happens is that your breasts are also growing, they're maturing in pregnancy. So something that's quite interesting to know is that as little girls, you're born little girl, and then later puberty, and everything basically develops. The breast itself, the breast tissue is developing. Later on, you have to wear a bra. And as an adult, later on, you think that everything is done developing. But in actual fact, what actually happens is that the breasts stop developing at a certain stage, and it only fully matures once you are pregnant. Okay, so that is really the last bit of developing or development, what happens at the end of in pregnancy. So if we think about the boobs, we look at your, if you look at your breast, you see the areolas, you see the nipple, but there's actually a whole world and a whole network that actually goes inside. So what actually happens in pregnancy is that these ducts basically have to form, and the lobules have to form, and this is something that is not normally there. If you're not pregnant, you don't have it. So it's amazing to think that how our bodies actually just suddenly, they just know what to do. This just develops. And basically what it means is these ducts, it's like little roads, it's a passageway, it's this whole structure to make milk, and then for the milk to run towards the nipple so that the baby can actually feed from it. So it's something that develops in pregnancy, and that is also why the breasts actually do become bigger. They grow in pregnancy. So it's very important to wear a comfortable bra, something that really supports you. Some moms even find later that it's actually more comfortable even sleeping in some maternity bra or a pregnancy bra that is actually much more comfortable. For some, that's not needed. So it's really up to you as to what feels comfortable for you. And a little tip here is, often I get the question, so when do you actually buy the maternity bras or the breastfeeding bras? Now, that is something that I would say don't buy too quickly. Don't buy these things at the early signs of pregnancy. So you want to wait for the last couple of weeks, because the last couple of weeks, this is where the breasts fully mature, and that is the ideal time to go and fit different sizes and see what is comfortable for you to wear. Okay, so the breast size is something that also changes, obviously, like I said now. And then something that's also quite interesting to know is that if you look at your breast, you will notice the areola and the nipple. So normally you're quite, you're comfortable with the normal, what it looks like, and also the color, your specific color. And then suddenly in pregnancy, you notice that it actually becomes a lot darker, darker in color. And this is really the hormones working. So you've got lots of hormones working in your body to prepare for breastfeeding. Okay. I know there's a theory even that says that the nipple and the areola has to become darker so the baby can spot it easy. But it's actually not really that to do with that. It's just a hormonal thing that actually happens, that it becomes darker. Okay. Then also what you're going to notice on your breast itself is you're going to start noticing that there are veins, like blue marks or blue like lines developing on your breast. Now that is also to do with the blood flow. So if we think about how this works and where your body actually gets all the different parts to be able to make milk, is that you need these blood vessels also in the breast, and that is also something that is then suddenly much more prominent and you start seeing them. Okay, so that is definitely also something that you might notice. Then another thing is that you might notice little pimples. It almost looks like little pimples on the areola. Now, it's important to note that that basically is not really, it's not pimples. Don't squeeze on it, don't press on it, don't do anything with it. It's called Montgomery glands. Now, these Montgomery glands are oil secreting glands. So it actually secretes continuously a little bit of oil that actually goes onto the areola and onto the nipple. And this really is what keeps your breast healthy and also what prepares your breast for breastfeeding. There's no need to do all sorts of other things that you might have heard, brushing, and you have to do spirits and kneeling and all sorts of things that you have to do. That really is very old-fashioned. Okay, so what we know now is that these Montgomery glands, these oil secreting glands, they really prepare the nipples and the areola for breastfeeding and the breast itself for breastfeeding. Okay, so that is something that you might also notice. Okay, then what you can notice for those of you who are 16 weeks in pregnancy and further along is that you might start noticing that you actually have a little bit of milk, and it really is just a little bit. It might just be a drop or two that you might see that actually leaks out, or if you press on the boob, then suddenly you see this drop appearing. Now, there's nothing wrong, okay? That is quite normal. And for those of you who sit here and now you think, oh my word, I have not seen that. Does that mean I will not be able to breastfeed? That's also not true, okay? We all different. Some people see it beforehand, some people don't. So don't stress about it, okay? But if you do see this, okay, don't stress. It's usually just in smaller quantities. It doesn't really affect anything. For some moms here and there, it is a thing that it might actually leak onto the clothes. And then for those of you who, where this happens, I would say just get some breast pads and just start wearing breast pads. And that actually then just protects your clothes, especially if you're out and about and you're working possibly. Okay, so for those, you know, if that actually happens. So in pregnancy, the milk is starting to be made. That's the colostrum, just small quantities. And what happens at birth, and this is really amazing to think how this works, is that when the baby's born and the placenta or the afterbirth is detaching itself from the wall of the uterus, that really is your sign or your body sign to say, you know what, this baby is now born. I now have to make milk. Okay, so that is suddenly where the colostrum, the volume is starting to be a little bit more. Remember that colostrum, the volume is little. Okay, so it's not, you know, mils and mils or 50 or 100 mils. It's really minute quantities. It's about, let's say, about a teaspoon or two full of colostrum per feed. Now, we don't specifically see that, so you don't measure this. You just put your baby on the boob and your baby feeds, because the colostrum is highly concentrated. So the breast needs to be soft, okay? And the reason for this, what you can expect, the first 3 days, the breast itself is softer, okay? Baby needs to latch frequently, feed frequently, and it's easier for baby to learn how to do this when the breast is softer. Okay, so if you feed your baby enough, you are providing your baby with the opportunity to really get the hang of how am I supposed to do this, okay? And then around about day 3, day 4, the mature milk comes in. So basically what that means is the volume of milk becomes a lot more. Okay, so suddenly overnight you start feeling heavier boobs. Okay, they're a lot heavier. Some moms even suddenly have a cleavage where they never had a cleavage before. Okay, and then also it's just starting, it might even start to drip and to leak. Now that feeling of fullness, okay, is the change where the colostrum is now mixed in with the mature milk, where there's a lot more water in the milk itself. Okay, so that is specifically, that is normal. It should be like that. But because it becomes this very full feel, it is now more than important than ever to actually keep on feeding your baby frequently. If your baby wakes up, you feed. Don't wait for any signs of when your baby's hungry. I would in actual fact say this is the time you wake your baby every 2 hours, day and night, to feed your baby, okay, because it just flushes, it just drains the milk, that it never becomes this hugely uncomfortable feeling, because it becomes really difficult if the breast is very full and hard. It makes it very difficult for a baby to latch on because it's harder, okay. But if your baby had had lots of time in preparation to this, the first 3 days of feeding, those babies generally do well, or they do better to be able to latch easier. If that is still the case, where it's still difficult for your baby, just feed your baby frequently. You want to feed frequently so that it never gets to this extreme full hard feeling, okay. So that is just for a day or two, and then that settles, okay. So it's a fairly quick settle, and then you can just let your baby decide again when it's sleep time. But now what happens is that the first couple of weeks we get so used to this full feeling, this heavy feeling. You have to wear comfortable bra, you wear breast pads. You get so used to all, the feeling of how it feels at the time, that comes 6 weeks where your body has now learned exactly how much to make for your baby, okay, with the stimulation that is going on. Then suddenly the breast itself become a lot softer. And I find that a lot of moms then start thinking perhaps there's something wrong, suddenly it's a lot softer. Do I still have milk? These kind of things. And let me tell you, your body's now learned what to do and what your body and what your baby needs. Okay, so don't stress about that. So it's really, if we think about breast changes, in pregnancy, it grows and develops, okay? Then the baby's born and the breast is softer for the baby to be able to latch easy, to learn how to do this. Then suddenly the mature milk starts coming in, and it becomes really fuller and harder, and that's the time that baby has to feed frequently, and then it suddenly starts settling, and later on, the breasts are very soft, but it continues to secrete and continues to make milk. So don't stress of that. So you just want to keep feeding frequently, because that is also determining how much your body is making for your baby. Okay, so I hope that made sense, as to think what to expect, okay, is these changes and the tenderness and the Montgomery glands, they're all normal. If you see these things, you are quite normal, and it's really good to think, yay, I've got these hormones, they're working, even if my breasts are tender and they're uncomfortable. You know what? I've got these hormones and they are preparing my breasts for breastfeeding. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And then you can look at your breasts in a different light, if I can say that. Okay, thank you very much.